Time for Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan as we head toward a holiday weekend next week, Thanksgiving. So getting a little colder. It's still seasonal, but getting out the heavier jacket here lately, kind of looks like. So
yes, but again, I don't think we've had a hard freeze.
No, maybe one in mid to late October, but nothing really, huge.
Got a few coming up.
Yeah, I think sprinkler systems are still going in some areas of town.
Well, and I'm not a sprinkler system person, but I think if mine was still charged, I would probably be draining it sometime this week. So
it is that time. One thing that the mild fall, there's been time to get some outdoor, street work and water main work or repairs and things like that. I think you have one on Carlisle Street, some repair work there. So from that standpoint, it's been a pretty good fall in terms of maybe getting done some late in the season work that normally wouldn't happen.
No, that's very, very true. And work will continue. I mean, if you look at even next week, it looks pretty good. Yeah. I don't really know when Mother Nature is going to give us the cold weather. Like this morning, it felt cold, but we know it's going to be colder than that before we get through with the month of December. But it does allow us to get some work done. Probably getting some cold weather isn't all bad because that also gives the other side that everybody has to kind of know about is that, when you have the equipment and the trucks and the things that you have, there is maintenance and oil changes and those type of things. So it does give the guys a chance to get their equipment at least in good working order to make sure they go through the winter.
And for street crews, they got to put all the attachments on and the sand application equipment, the plows, and I'm sure if they haven't gotten that on already, they're probably about ready to do that.
I'm sure there is a solid plan. If you look at that's an amazing thing. When you look at the 10-day forecast, somehow I think they get more accurate all the time. It used to be like, well, maybe they're half right, half not. But I'm sure that they are all lined up and ready to go because you just never know when winter storm's going to come in.
Hopefully don't get one of these bomb cyclone things that are hitting the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Some of the photos of that weather, it's pretty brutal out there.
It is. Yeah, they can keep that out there.
Yeah. Somebody's got to get it. Better them than us, I guess. But,
yes.
want to talk about a couple of things today. A public works grant that the city is receiving. You Monday night finalized an agreement with Southeast Nebraska Development District to handle administration and maybe construction oversight on that. That grant, I think that was part of a series of grants that were announced for other communities too, if I remember right.
Yes, it was. It was.
What will it allow you to do? What that money will be put to use for?
I'm not 100% sure on that grant. I haven't read through it as well as I probably should have, but it will help, in a lot of areas of our public works and again, just help us stretch our dollars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
probably combined possibly with other funds. It
yes.
probably doesn't pay for everything you'd like to do, but better to have it than not have it.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Lincoln Street project, we mentioned that's over with. There's plans, though, on another section, though, isn't there?
25th to 27th.
Yeah, okay.
That's one of the last areas that I think needs the concrete work there. And so that will happen probably springish, somewhere around in April or May, hopefully. Mm-hmm. The plans for that are 30% drawn up, and 30% is not exactly where you want to be. You want to get at that 70, 90% before you bid it out. Mm-hmm. But yes, there was just a little bit left there to do, and we decided, that was probably a good thing to get done. Mm-hmm. That particular little stretch there actually has probably got a little bit of a head start because when we did 33rd and Lincoln, I believe they poured right up into the intersection there. So they did go a little bit further with that project. What that allows us to do is then kind of work that intersection a little better. And so people can have access to their neighborhoods as we do, 25th to 27th. Now, that won't go as quick. Yeah. It'll go not as long as that project, but it'll be a little more labor intensive because you've got the curb and the gutter, you've got driveways and side, walks and those type of things.
One of the council members was asking about whether there's a little bit of a jog in that where I drove there yesterday and I didn't really see It's not like 13th and Lincoln where you get that big,
No.
redirection there. It's a little off center, but it doesn't appear to be huge.
No, there won't be a jog or much of a jog, if any, there when we're done. I think the construction company wanted to make sure, if I remember the conversation right, the pouring of 33rd and Lincoln, that Lincoln section was probably wider than what will probably come back in, but we'll make sure that it's not a jog.
Okay. You're coming up on, I think, the end of 1 year, 12-month contract with a Washington, D.C. based firm that has helped you out greatly in terms of getting grants and perhaps on congressional allocations, things like that. Of course, you got the big RAISE grant this past year, a long-term project that you can use in the downtown area. Going into the end of this, what's your thought on renewing that? Have you talked to maybe what council members are feeling about that at this time?
I think we learned a lot. I think we learned that for a number of grants and some bigger grants, you really need help. The way the grants need to be written, and I think I talked about this on a couple of the radio shows, if you miss one check mark, you're off the field. And these guys do this for a living, and they're really good at it. Now, they don't write the grant without our input. We spend a lot of time, and our administration spends a lot of time talking to Merchant McIntyre about the grants. But the other kind of what I would say value we have with these grant writers is they will survey the landscape and see what grants we can go after and what grants really aren't worth our time to go after because we probably won't get them, or they're just doesn't fit our first-class city. So it's really almost like a funnel that they do, and then they can concentrate on the ones that they think we can get. So I will tell you that we'll do a review of the 2024 year probably at the first or second meeting in January, and the amount of grants that we have received will be totaled up at that review, and it's substantial.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the big one of $22 million, but you'd be surprised at how many little ones add up to another big chunk of money. So we've done very, very well. Their contract will be one of the things that we'll negotiate and decide if we're going to go another year with them. I would say that we certainly have gotten our money's worth from them.
I was trying to remember what the original contract price was, and at the time I remember saying, well, that's kind of a lot of money. But then you look at what's happened, it's kind of like an investment that has paid off really well. I mean,
it is. I think I figured with the big grant that we got, it was like 0.002% of that grant. So it is not cheap. If I remember right, it's $8,000 a month. And so that's a big chunk of money. Yeah. But we certainly have seen our return on our investment there, because it is, you're right, it's an investment.
As those big grants go out to communities, you kind of wonder if that's prompting a lot of cities and counties to say, maybe we ought to just, spend to get a separate grant writer rather than trying to handle the work ourselves with all the other things that need to be done in local government. Well,
I think that's partially true. I think the other thing, and I'll be the first one to say that our city administrator and our city attorney do a very good job with writing some of the smaller grants and some of even the larger grants. But when you look at larger grants, there's a lot of knowledge that they have on how to write the grant that we will never have. And so without that assistance, without that help, we're just not going to get it.
Yeah. Before I take a break here, Monday night, approval of another downtown redevelopment grant in the form of a loan, kind of a continuation of probably 2 or 3 grants over time that you've done this. Fletcher's Decorating with a loan of, I think, $14,000 or so.
Roughly.
Give or take.
Yeah.
So it'll be a nice improvement again.
Yes, absolutely. That's, that downtown revitalization and redevelopment grant has been worth every penny over we probably had it like every other year for a number of years. And if you drive downtown and you start looking at some of the facade improvements, you can kind of see how it looks. I think, one of the most noticeable ones, of course, would be the signs at the theater, and really has dressed that up and maybe be an opportunity for him to put in for another one for the other side.
Yeah. The other thing, too, I was wishing before you even got into these grants, I kind of wish I would have taken a before and after set of photos of different sections of the downtown, because just wondering how different it looks now that you've had a lot of these projects go there. So
that would be good, but, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, you don't think about those things at the moment, but
No.
it's really been a good program, a combination of private support and public support.
Right,
So
it has.
we'll be back with more on Ask the Mayor in just a moment. You're listening to Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan today on KWBE. This Monday night, Council approved an agreement with the Village of Crab Orchard in Johnson County to have Midwest Area Refuse Solutions, MARS as it's known, provide garbage collection service. This is kind of one that they came to you. It wasn't like a recruiting of situation.
That's exactly right. They I don't know I guess the best way to say it is lost their garbage carrier. They decided that they no longer wanted to serve Crab Orchard. Mm-hmm. And part of that is I think that everybody sits back, since it's a business, is that they have to look at their point of diminishing return. And it could be that the hauler lost a number of rural customers coming into Crab Orchard. And, Crab Orchard isn't very large. It's 25 customers. But they came and were seeking bids from us, and I think whomever else wanted to bid. And so we did put a bid in, and it was accepted. I would guess that we were the lowest reasonable bid at that point. And one of the things that we look at before we put a bid in is how many rural customers do we have, and how close are our trucks to Crab Orchard. Because, if we were just going to drive out with our truck to Crab Orchard, pick up the garbage, and come back with 25 customers, it probably wouldn't pay its own way. But if you look at the number of rural customers that circle that area, we have a truck out there already, and that truck is not 100% full, so it makes economic sense for them and for us. It's a 5-year contract. It is at $18, which, as was noted, is $2 less than what we have in the city. However, it's still profitable for MARS, and one of the things about MARS, it's a revenue-generating business that is not using any tax dollars to operate. So they do need to operate at a profit, and the profit goes back into that business and keeps rates reasonable for everyone. I think the history of the rates, they're $18. That's exactly what, is it Philly, maybe?
Sounds like Phil. That sounds right. I think that was the town quoted.
Right. And so, and you got to understand, in that 5 years, we'll work our way up to trying to get everybody all at that $20. Again, though, there's some benefits with Crab Orchard, because Crab Orchard is, the community is going to pay us. So we won't be sending out 25 bills or trying to collect garbage debt. So there's some benefit there, too. So I think it will help us continue to make MARS very profitable and bring a lot of value not only to Beatrice but also the surrounding area in Gage County. And with this one in Johnson County, it's barely into Johnson County, and it was one, like you said, they came and said, we need a garbage hauler.
In a small village like that, where you only have, like you said here, about 25 customers, do those customers bring it all to a common point and then the truck picks it up there, or do they go around each one?
I would guess they'll get totes, and we'll use our side loaders, just like we would any place else.
The other thing, too, is with the new landfill to be built out to the south, it gives communities a chance to, kind of be a part of a modern day. Not that the other ones weren't modern when they were built.
Right.
But the latest technology is available to there, and a lot of space, too, that you have to fill.
Yes. And, the bottom line is that helps pay for the landfill as well. And landfills aren't cheap as we get into this project, and we've talked about how complicated they are to build and getting rid of the bad water when it rains. This is another way that we can get a modern landfill facility, and the more customers that we have from MARS, the more that money also that we pay for the landfill.
Seems like you've been able to stretch out the life of the current landfill quite a bit by maybe doing some procedural changes, or how you either bale or collect or compact garbage, that you've gotten plenty of life out of that one, but they do run out of space sooner or later.
That one does not owe us anything. It is really time to get a new one put in. And, I think when we get the bids in and we talk about landfills, maybe that might be a good opportunity to bring in Jason about, there's just procedural things we have to do because we're going to have to close the current landfill. And I think there's a post-closure monitoring for 30 years, so that's in that there. And then we have to open the other one, but it also has to meet environmental standards before it's opened.
Yeah. As far as adding customers, seems like it kind of started out more north and west of Beatrice. Then you added Odell recently, and now Crab Orchard. Crab Orchard is the farthest east point right now?
It is. Okay. It is. I don't see us reaching much further out. Again, you just don't know where the customers are going to come from in the rural community.
Monday night, you had updates, reports from the chairs of the Dempster, the Downtown Redevelopment, and the Ordinance Revisions Committees. Ted Fairbanks, Terry Doyle, Gary Barnard gave updates. Anything stand out for you on how things are progressing there?
Well, the one thing that stood out to me the most is that we've had a lot of work done by all three committees, and that there's more work to be done. Yeah. If you think about the downtown revitalization group, there's going to be a lot of more work to be done before we get that highway moved and also generate possible business opportunities for a number of people. Dempster's, as the committee noted, we still don't have that last partial, so that's work to be done there. And as you look at the ordinances, we have to understand that most of the ordinances that we operate on today were put in place probably in the early to mid-'70s for the most part. And so there's a lot of work to be done to bring them up into 2024 and beyond. So we know there's work that needs to be done. We know that one of the things we need to make sure that we do is that we, write them in a way that is current to today's standards.
On the Downtown Redevelopment Committee, kind of sounds like this next year, Ella Street will be somewhat of the focus, at least for the kind of demonstration project near the museum, but perhaps farther up to the east.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the next thing we may see the most of. I know
You will.
I know that downtown redevelopment thing. Everybody's wanting to see where but that's kind of a longer term thing, and with the RAISE grant,
that's a longer term thing. I think it's probably going to be spread out over maybe a 5-year period. One of the nicest things that we've done is that we have, contracted with the Nebraska Department of Transportation. They are going to be the grant monitor, and the bills will come into them, and they will pay the bills and submit all the paperwork with the federal government. So that's a huge thing to make things move a little quicker.
Yeah. Before I take a break here, speaking of downtown, Main Street with the new Christmas decorations on the pole. Did you see the ones that went up the other day? The stars or the combination, kind of nice, modern looking. The other ones are getting a little long in the tooth, I suppose. But
and again, hats off to Main Street. Yeah. It's amazing. As you sit either on the council or in the mayor's seat, and you get involved with the community. We've got some great organizations. Main Street being one is really going to make the downtown look beautiful for Christmas, and then you've got on top of that, you've got the Chamber of Commerce, and we've got the lighted parade, I think, on December 7th. And an event that's coming up that is always highlighted is Sunday's the lighting of the courthouse, which is also coincided when the lights will go on downtown. So, I think it really is going to give us our little beautiful Christmas town for the next 6 weeks.
Weather should be pretty good for Sunday night, looks like.
Yes. Last year it was a lot of rain and cold, but this year it looks really, really great, and I think that's wonderful as they kick off the Christmas season.
Always good to get maybe a few snowflakes for ambiance, but the better weather draws them out a little bit more, I think.
I think they won't have any problem with no snowflakes.
That's for sure. We'll be back to wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor, wrapping up our show with Mayor Bob Morgan today. It was on the consent agenda Monday night, the agreement with Northeast Community College on clinical education services. Is that about allowing them to kind of use the Beatrice Fire Department as sort of a training situation.
It is. In all the health professions, whether it's paramedics or surgical technologists or radiologists, there is a piece of their educational component which is called clinical education. And really what it is, it's their opportunity to get hands-on experience and work under other paramedics before they actually go out and graduate. So it's just it's kind of nice to have. Those folks will come in and see our fire department and work with our folks and get their clinical component here. It could be that it depends on how the program's set up. We could be listed as one of the rural, size-wise of fire stations where they can get experience for a while, and then they'll rotate maybe to a larger city. But again, it helps them, I think, get most of the really important education piece, and that's that hands-on experience rather than just the book learning.
Is there potential for it to be kind of a feeder source for EMTs or paramedics for your own department? Because there's people that, leave for other jobs or maybe try something else, and there's spots that open.
Absolutely. It is gives us an opportunity to showcase what we have, and we also, it's almost, and I hate to use this term, but I will, you can test drive your possible future replacements as they come in and know how they worked and how they got along with people and what are their working skills. And so it really is a nice partnership, whether it's clinical education or whether it's cooperative education where students go in and work in their related field. It does actually open up a channel for job opportunities.
Yeah. And with the training of the current members there and their skills and being one of the more departments that are depended on regionally for a higher level of service, this kind of fits pretty well.
It really does. It's a great opportunity. We're glad to work with any of the community colleges, and this just formalizes what you have to do for that clinical experience.
Well, your next meeting, newly sworn-in council members, Ted Fairbanks re-elected.
Correct.
New ones, Dana Heido and Alex Eckhoff.
Correct.
And start with a new batch of people. And,
we do. It's a little bit unusual this year because not only did we have Ted Fairbanks reelected, we had a council member who ran in a different ward. So Gary was elected for Ward 1. We got Ted in Ward 2. You got Dana in Ward 3 and Alex in Ward 4.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. I think it will be a good 2 years. The two departing council members, Rich Kerr and Tim Fralin, brought a lot of good ideas to the table and helped us reach the goals of where we are. Now we'll pick up the pieces from that, and I think the council maybe have a lot of good ideas because we're bringing in two people that weren't on the council, and change is good.
And you have a woman member of the council, which I think is the fourth one that I can remember now. I think it was Maxine Stone long ago. Then it was Connie Hardig. Then it was Susie Witulski, who was on the council for a while, and now Dana. So you have female representation, which probably is advantageous. A change of viewpoints, maybe, a change of input in some ways. So.
Absolutely. I think that, when I look at it, I guess I don't look at it from that gender perspective. What I look at is the talent they're going to bring. Yeah. And she will certainly bring talent to the city council.
Okay. A couple of things coming up in the time we have left here. The Beatrice police will have their Stuff the Cruiser toy drive. They work in conjunction with the YMCA with the toy distribution for less fortunate families during the Christmas season. I think that's a week from this Saturday at the Walmart parking lot, 8 to 4. I think it's Officer Brittany Rue kind of coordinates it, but there's a lot of other officers. I didn't realize this is the 9th year.
It is the 9th year. So, and it's really a neat opportunity. I think that we all know that we have people who are very blessed, and we know some people that need a little bit of a helping hand. And this is a great way to, buy something, give it to them. Don't know where it ends up, but it's a way that some child is going to be very, very happy
Yeah.
during the Christmas season.
I think they got some early donations too from the Baumgar store, I believe, to kind of kick them off too, from what I understand.
I think that's correct.
So that's kind of neat. Relatively new business in town. That, it's been in operation a couple of years now, 3
Right.
years, but kind of neat to see that partnership.
Absolutely.
So I skipped over one here I was going to ask you about.
Okay.
Any update on the Kensington project, or as some know it as the Paddock Hotel, or what's the status there?
We keep working on it. It will be transitioned to Hoppe Development Company probably in the next 2 months to 3 months, and then they'll probably start going to work on the property. They've spent a lot of time lining up their financing and grants and those type of things to get started. So hopefully in the 2025 year, that's another thing that we'll see completed.
That reminds me now, across the street, the vacant building next to the bank.
Okay.
Any news on that, or have you heard anything about that? I get asked about that once in a while.
Is that what they call the old JC Penney
yeah, it used to be the
building?
JC Penny.
Yeah.
Penny.
I'm not sure what's happening with that building. The owner is still working on that one, so no updates that I can share.
Any work session on the horizon? You haven't had one for a while. I know you went to the system where you hold them right before the council meeting.
Right.
Kind of works out pretty well for you.
It does work out pretty well, but one of the things that I've found that I think has worked out really good is we put in the committee work. And so a lot of things that we maybe would have addressed at a work session has been addressed through the committees and through the reports that they give. I would say we'll probably have a couple of work sessions next year. But I think we'll also make use of the committee process. And, I think one of the things that we'll probably even consider is maybe adding an ad hoc committee. I think one of the ad hoc committees that I think a number of council members would like to see is something to address the duck pond at Chautauqua. And so I think that's another project that might be able to be done in a committee format.
No Ask the Mayor program next week. Obviously, it's the Thanksgiving holiday. We won't make you come in or Eric come in on that Thursday and give you the day off at least there, but we'll pick it up in December again. Oh, one other thing about the new council coming in. Any thoughts toward, I think in the past at times you've done kind of a sort of a goal or priority setting thing, but you still have those priorities out there. So are you going to forego that, or what do you
We do have the priorities out there. We've talked a little bit about what do we want to do for the next 2 years and how do we want to frame that. And that's either going to be some type of goal setting will take place. We're trying to figure out what that format looks like.
Okay. Bob, happy holidays. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.